Every week, in the hills of Pennsylvania, packages arrive from all over the world. Inside are battered, burned, and broken lighters, some nearly a century old. Many have survived wars, floods, fires, or accidents that should have destroyed them forever. The remarkable part is not what arrives, but what happens next. The company that receives them repairs every single one. It doesn't matter when the lighter was made, who owns it, or whether the sender has a receipt. Since 1932, every repair has been free. At first glance, it seems like one of the worst business decisions ever made. A company promising to repair every product forever should have buried itself under endless costs. Yet the opposite happened. Every major competitor disappeared. The brands that once dominated the market, the companies that cut costs or switched to disposable products, all vanished. Only one remained. That company is Zippo. Its survival wasn't built on clever marketing or luck. It began during the darkest years of the Great Depression, when George Blaisdell noticed something that everyone else ignored. One evening at the Bradford Country Club, he watched a friend struggle with an ugly Austrian lighter. It wasn't elegant, it required 2 hands to operate and looked cheap. Blaisdell joked about it, asking why someone so well-dressed carried such an unattractive object. His friend simply replied, "It works." Those 2 words changed everything. At the time, most expensive lighters looked beautiful, but failed in the slightest breeze. The Austrian model looked terrible, but kept burning even in strong wind. Blaisdell realized there was a market between beauty and reliability. In 1932, with only 3 employees and borrowed equipment, he redesigned the Austrian lighter. He made it smaller so it fit comfortably in a pocket, added a hinged lid that could be opened with 1 thumb, and surrounded the wick with a perforated metal chimney that protected the flame from the wind. When the lid snapped shut, it produced a distinctive metallic click. No one intended to create it. It was simply the sound of the mechanism. Decades later, that click would become one of the most recognizable sound effects in Hollywood. He also needed a name. Inspired by the recently invented zipper, Blaisdell modified the word until it sounded modern, fast, and memorable. Zippo. $95, a significant amount during the Depression. Sales were slow, customers weren't convinced, and the business seemed destined to fail. Blaisdell experimented constantly, demonstrating the lighter in stores and searching for ways to attract attention. But the real turning point came when he made an extraordinary promise. Not for 1 year. Not with conditions. Forever. No receipt, no registration, no questions asked. Every Zippo sold became a permanent responsibility for the company. A lighter purchased in the 1930s could return decades later, damaged beyond recognition, and Zippo would still repair it free of charge. To accountants, the idea seemed absurd. Every sale created a liability that could last forever. Yet Blaisdell never backed away from the promise. Soon afterward, the Second World War transformed the company completely. As brass became essential for military production, Zippo could no longer use its traditional materials. The factory switched to steel coated in rough black paint, creating the famous black crackle finish. Originally, it was simply an inexpensive wartime solution. Ironically, those plain black lighters later became some of the most valuable collectibles the company ever produced. During the war, civilian production almost disappeared. Zippo became an military supply. On the battlefield, the lighter became much more than a way to light cigarettes. Soldiers used it to heat food, start fires, boil coffee, illuminate bunkers, and signal in darkness. It worked in mud, rain, and strong wind. War correspondent Ernie Pyle even described it as one of the most desired possessions among American soldiers. Millions of servicemen carried a Zippo throughout the war. When they returned home, they kept it in their pockets for decades. Their children and grandchildren grew up seeing the same lighter every day. Without planning it, Zippo had become emotionally connected to an entire generation. George Blaisdell strengthened that bond personally. He answered letters from soldiers and their families himself, treating every repair request as a matter of honor rather than business. Employees began calling him Mr. Zippo, a nickname that followed him for the rest of his life, because in many ways he and the company's promise had become inseparable. The post-war years brought tremendous growth. Hollywood sound editors discovered that the lighter's metallic click instantly communicated tension, confidence, or danger. The sound appeared in countless films. Businesses ordered customized Zippos with their logos, turning the lighter into one of the earliest successful promotional products.
The company even built a promotional car with 2 enormous illuminated Zippo lighters mounted on its body and toured the United States with it. In one of the strangest episodes in its history, the vehicle later disappeared for decades before eventually being rediscovered.
Then another conflict arrived. During the Vietnam War, soldiers once again carried Zippos everywhere. This time, however, they transformed them into deeply personal objects. They engraved names, dates, jokes, prayers, hometowns, and thoughts onto the steel cases. Those engravings became miniature diaries carried through combat. Today, historians study Vietnam Zippos almost like personal letters because they reveal the fears, hopes, and personalities of the young men who carried them. Many veterans also returned home convinced their Zippo had saved their lives by stopping fragments or bullets. Whether every story is true hardly matters. The important point is that the company never had to invent its reputation. Its customers created it through experience. By the early 1970s, Zippo looked unstoppable. It had survived the Depression, become a military icon, earned worldwide recognition, and built one of the strongest reputations in American manufacturing. Then, everything changed. The real threat arrived in 1973. That year, the French company Bic introduced a radically different idea to the American market, a cheap plastic lighter designed to be thrown away. For decades, people had treated lighters as durable possessions. You refilled them, repaired them, and carried them for years. Bic changed that mindset overnight. A lighter was no longer something to own, it was something to use briefly and replace. Consumers embraced the idea immediately. Disposable lighters flooded the market, destroying much of the traditional lighter industry. Famous American manufacturers that had once dominated sales either went bankrupt, moved production overseas, or disappeared altogether. Zippo also suffered. Why would anyone spend several dollars on a reusable lighter when a disposable one cost only a few cents? Before the company could fully recover, a second crisis emerged. Smoking rates in America began a steady decline. In the mid-1960s, more than 40% of American adults smoked. Decade after decade, that percentage fell dramatically. The main reason people carried lighters was slowly disappearing. Either of those changes could have destroyed an entire industry. Zippo survived both. Why? Many people assume the answer is nostalgia, but nostalgia alone has never saved companies. Countless beloved American brands in electronics, cameras, and watches disappeared despite having loyal customers. The real answer had been established back in 1932, the guarantee. Every competitor responded to economic pressure in the same predictable way. They reduced manufacturing costs, used thinner materials, shortened warranties, and outsourced production. Each decision improved profits in the short term, but slowly transformed their products into disposable commodities. Once they became disposable, they were forced to compete directly with Bic on price. No one could win that battle. Zippo couldn't follow the same path because its lifetime guarantee made it impossible. If the company reduced quality, every broken lighter would eventually return to the repair department, increasing costs instead of reducing them. The promise forced Zippo to continue building durable products year after year. What originally looked like a financial burden became an internal system that protected the company from making short-term decisions that would destroy its reputation. There was another hidden advantage. The internal mechanism of the Zippo remained remarkably standardized across generations. A lighter produced during Franklin Roosevelt's presidency can still be repaired today using modern replacement parts. The guarantee only worked because the product itself had been designed to remain repairable forever. As competitors abandoned durability, Zippo unintentionally moved into a completely different category: collectors. Beginning in the 1950s, every Zippo carried date codes on its base. What started as a manufacturing system eventually created an entirely new hobby. Collectors searched for rare editions, attended conventions, and traded lighters around the world. Many of them never smoked. The product was no longer competing against disposable lighters. It had become something closer to a pocket watch, a knife, or even a family heirloom. One famous company story perfectly illustrates this image. According to Zippo, after cleaning it, someone opened the lid and struck the wheel. The lighter worked on the first attempt. Whether every detail is true almost doesn't matter. The important point is that only a company with Zippo's reputation could tell such a story and have people believe it. Even today, every authentic Zippo lighter is still manufactured in Bradford, Pennsylvania, the same small town where George Blaisdell founded the company more than 90 years ago. The town has around 8,000 residents, and the factory continues to employ roughly 1,000 local workers. Rather than moving production overseas like so many competitors, Zippo remained exactly where it started. In 1993, the company expanded by purchasing the legendary Case Knife Company, bringing two iconic American brands under the same roof. Success created one final challenge: counterfeiters. As the brand became more valuable, millions of fake Zippos began appearing around the world. They looked convincing enough to fool many customers. But every fake that failed damaged Zippo's reputation rather than the counterfeit manufacturers. The company responded with legal battles across multiple continents, working with customs authorities and spending millions of dollars protecting the one asset it had spent decades building: trust. Today, visitors to Bradford can tour the Zippo Museum. Outside stands a black granite monument shaped like a flame. Inside, they discover perhaps the most remarkable part of the company's story: the repair clinic. Every week, technicians open hundreds of packages sent from around the world. Some contain lighters crushed by heavy machinery. Others survived house fires, floods, or decades forgotten inside drawers.
Many carry enormous sentimental value. A grandfather's wartime lighter rediscovered by his grandchildren, hoping only to hear its familiar click one more time. The technicians repair every lighter they can. If a component cannot be saved, they replace it. Then they carefully package the lighter and send it back to its owner. The invoice has remained unchanged for more than 90 years. Nothing. In an age where cameras, phones, electronics, and countless everyday products are designed to be replaced rather than repaired, Zippo represents a completely different philosophy. George Blaisdell never intended to create a lesson in business strategy. He simply made an extraordinary promise during the worst economic crisis in American history. That promise forced his company to build products that could genuinely last forever. It protected Zippo from sacrificing quality for short-term profits. It created trust that no advertising campaign could ever buy. It transformed ordinary customers into lifelong ambassadors, and eventually turned a simple lighter into an object people collected, inherited, and treasured. Ironically, what appeared to be the worst business promise of the 20th century became one of the smartest. Somewhere today, another small package is arriving from Bradford. Inside is an old lighter that someone thought was beyond saving. Its dents remain. Its scratches still tell their story. But once again, it works. The owner opens the lid. A spark appears. The flame holds steady against the wind. Then comes the sound that has echoed through battlefields, Hollywood films, and family memories for more than 90 years. The unmistakable click.
In the end, the entire history of Zippo can still be summarized by the same two words that inspired George Blaisdell almost a century ago: it works.